Hello, I will do an IBEW introductory test. So in this video, I will do 8 introductory tests regarding solving linear equations for the IBEW exam. Okay, so let's begin. So let's start with simplifying expression, combining like terms. Let's begin. So here we only have 5 questions, pretty simple. Question 1 says simplify the combining like terms. We have 5x plus 7 plus 2x plus 3. So what you want to do when you simplify is get all the letters on one side. I mean, get all the letters and then constant, and then always go highest lot for the letters, go with the highest power and then below. So the good news is we only have one letter. It's just x. We have a 4x here and a 2x. I don't see any other letters, so that's what it is. So 4x plus 2x is 6x. And then your constant is 7 and 3, which is 8, 9, 10. Okay, so that's your final answer, 6x plus 10. Okay, let's do question 2. Simplify by combining like terms. So we have 9y minus 2y. Uh, so let's start with our letters. You can box it or circle if it makes it easier. Yeah, box anything with the y's. So what's 9y minus 2y? 7y. And then what's the constant -4 and -5, which is -9. Okay, so it's 7y minus 9. Question 3, simplify by combining like terms. So, okay, so now we have we have a square and then a regular a. So when you are in that situation, just go with the highest power. So you can box anything within a squared. So you have a 5a squared here and a -2a squared there. That is going to be 5 minus 2 is 3a squared. And then you have just regular a's. You can circle that if you want. So you have a 3a here and a 6a there. So that's what's 3a plus 6a, 7, 8, 9a. Okay, so that's my final answer. So 3a squared plus 9a, that one. Okay, let's do question 4. Simplify. Um, let's see. So we have quite a few m's. So let's start with, we have an m cube here and a -5m cube there. So when you put that together, what's -4m and a -5m cubed? That is a -9m cubed, right? And then our m's, you can box this one. You have a 2m and a -8m. What is 2m and -8m? -6m. That is this one. Question 5. So we have some ace x squared. So we have it. You can box it or underline it. I'm just gonna underline it. So we have a 7x squared and then negative 5x squared, what is that going to be? Positive 2x squared. And then our x's, we have a negative 3x and a negative 1x. That is negative 4x. And then our constant is a positive 12 and a positive 4. That's 16. So it's that one. Wait, actually, why did, no, it's not this one. That's a 2. 7 minus 5 is 2. So 2x squared minus 4x plus 16, this one. Correct. Okay. So that was pretty self uh explanatory. Let's move on to the next test or next practice test. So now we are distributing. So it's just when you hear the term distribute, they literally mean the same thing as FOIL. So let's begin. Question one, we have th 3 parentheses 2x minus 5. Yeah, distribute or the same thing as FOIL. So what I would do is first is if you can, make sure in the inner parentheses, make sure if you can combine them or collect like terms or simplify. On the inner parentheses, we have 2x minus 5. There's no way we can combine them. This is a variable. This is a constant. Impossible. So you just go ahead and FOIL out this 3. So 3 times 2x is 6x. 3 times negative 5 is negative 15. So my answer is 6x minus 15. This one. Okay, question 2. We have x times 4x plus 3. Always check in inner parentheses. Can you combine them? We can't. So you just gotta FOIL this out. So what is x times 4x? So a lot of students always get this mixed up. X times 4x is 4x squared. Why is that? Because here, let me write it out. X, you don't see a power, but there's an invisible one. So whenever you don't see a power, it's an invisible one. So what's x1 times 4x? Well, when you're multiplying with the same base, so go back to the properties of exponent exam or look under supplementary. But if when you're multiplying with the same base, um, so you're multiplying two things. The constant, which is 4, and then this does have an invisible one. So 1 times 4 is 4. That's how we got 4. And then you're also multiplying the variable. What's x1 times x1? So according to our properties of exponential, when you're multiplying with the same base, you add the powers. So 1 plus 1 is 2. Okay, so that's how I got 4x squared. Okay, let's move on. What's x times 3? 3x. So that is my final answer, 4x squared plus 3x. There you go. Okay, question 3, distribute. We have negative 2x times 5x squared minus 4. So can you simplify the inner parentheses? No, we can't. So we'll go ahead and FOIL this negative 2x. So what's negative 2x times 5x squared? That is negative 10x cubed. Let me show you why. Because negative 2x or negative 2x to the 1 times 5x squared, you're multiplying two things, the constant and the variable. So the constant is 5 times negative 2 is negative 10, and the variable is x to the third, right? Because what's x1 times x2? You add the powers because you're multiplying, would be x3. Okay, continue. What's negative 2x times negative 4? That would be positive 4x. 4x because negative 2x times negative 4, negative 2 times negative 4 is positive 8, and then you have the x. Whoops, why did I put a 4? It should be 8, right? Negative 2 times negative 4 is 8x. Okay, that's your final answer. So negative 10x cubed plus 8x, this one. Okay, let's move on to question 4, distribute. We have 4y squared times 2y cubed minus y. So I don't think we can do anything in the inner parentheses because this is a y cube and this is a y1. You can't combine those two. So go ahead and FOIL that out. So what's 4y cubed times 2y cubed? Um, if you get lost, just write it out. 4y squared times 2y cubed. So you multiply the constant and the variable. So 4 times 2 is 8. And our letter is going to be, what's y squared times y cubed? Well, you're multiplying, so you add the exponent, so 3 plus 2 is 5. Okay, continue. What's 4y squared minus 4y? 4y squared times negative 4, negative y. So 4y squared times negative y is negative 4y cubed. Y, 4 times, and this is like an invisible negative 1. So 4 times negative 1 is negative 4, and then the variable, this has an invisible, you don't see a power, but there is, it's just an invisible one. So 2 plus 1 is 3. Okay, so that is your answer. 8y5 minus 4y cubed. 8y5, where's that? 8y5 minus 4y cubed, this one. Oops. How much questions? There's only five. Okay, this is the last one for distributing. So let's do this one. What's negative 3a times 2a squared? So let's kind of do this in our head because you are going to do this on the real test. Negative 3a cubed times 2a. Negative 3 times 2 is negative 6, and then you have a, and then a cubed times a2 is a5. Continue the process. What's negative 3a cubed times negative 5a? That is going to be a positive, because negative 3 times negative 5 is positive 15a to the fourth. And then what is negative 3a cubed times 1? That is negative 3a cubed. Okay, that's my final answer. Negative 6a, negative 6a5 plus 15a4 minus 3a cubed. This one. Okay, so yeah, that was distributing. So let's move on. So now this is simplifying expressions. Begin test. So question one, okay, so we got it. It's a little bit of combination of we of the both of what we just did. So it looks like we got to distribute and combine like terms. So what I'm going to do for, so let me, question one says, let me read, simplify the expression, write the answer in standard form. Um, when they say standard form, what they want is highest power to lowest power to the constant, right? So this, I don't think this is standard because yeah, and yeah. So we can eliminate that one. But yeah, we have 5 plus 2 parentheses 3x minus 1 plus x squared. So what I would do first is do the distribute first. So FOIL this out. 2 times 3x is 6x. 2 times -1 is -2. Now do not FOIL the 2 with the x squared or the 5 because it's not in the parentheses. Instead, just bring it down. Okay. Then what you got to do is collect like terms. So start with the highest. So collect like terms going from highest power to lowest. So my highest power is x squared. And then it's going to be 6x. And then our constant is 5 and -2, which is +3. So that is x squared plus 6x plus 3. This one, x squared plus 6x plus 3. Correct. Okay, question two. Simplify the expression and put it in standard form. We have 4x minus 3 times x squared minus 2x plus 7. So always, like I should have told you this, but always check if you can simplify the inner parentheses. We can't. So what you want to do is just do the discrete first. So FOIL out this -3. So -3 times x squared is -3x squared. -3 times -2x is +6x. And then bring down the plus 7, and then bring down the 4x. Okay. Then you just collect like terms going from highest power to lowest. So my highest power is -3x squared. Then it's going to be the next highest power is the x's or the x1s. So you have a 4x and a 6x, which is 10x. And then your constant is 7. Okay, so your final answer is -3x squared plus 10. Whoops, forgot to put an x here. 4x plus 6x is 79, 10x minus, and then we have a plus 7. So which one is that going to be? -3x squared plus 10x plus 7. This one. Okay, question three. Same idea, simplify the expression, write the answer in standard form. So, okay, what I would do is for distribute this part and then distribute this -2. So this is, don't worry about the minus. It's like, think of it as a -2, right? So let's start here. Let's FOIL out this x. X times x is x squared, right? And then x times 5 is 5x. And then FOIL out this -2. -2 times x squared is -2x squared. And then -2 times -3 is +6. Okay, and then it's all about collecting like terms. So start with the highest power. You have an x squared and a -2x squared. That is just add the coefficient. What's 1 minus 2? -1 x squared. And then your next highest power is 5 x's, and I don't see any other x's, so bring that down. And then my constant is 6. So it's going to be -1 x squared plus 5x plus 6. Question four, simplify the expression. So what I would do is FOIL out this -2. So -2 x squared times 4 is -8 x squared. negative 2x squared times negative x. So if that confuses, write it out. Negative 2x squared times negative x or negative 1x. So you multiply the coefficient, negative 2 times negative 1 is positive 2. And then it's going to be x cubed, right? Because this is an invisible 1, so 1 plus 2 is 3. And then these are outside the parentheses, so bring those down. And then it's all about collecting like terms. So start with the highest power. So your highest power is 2x cubed and a 5x cubed, which is 5, 6, 7 x cubed. And then your x squared is a negative, let me box it, negative 8x squared and negative 9x squared. What is that going to be? 9, just add them up. Not negative 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, negative 17. And that's your final answer. 7x cubed minus 17x squared. There you go. Okay, this one, question 5. So let's distribute first and then bring down the 12x. So what's 3x times 2x? Let's do this quick because let's pretend this is the real thing. 3x times 2x is 6x cubed, right? 3 times 2 is 6. X1 times x2 is x cubed. 3x times negative 4 is negative 12x. And then negative x squared times 5x is negative 5x cubed. And then negative x squared times 2 is negative 2x squared. And then the plus 12x. Okay. Then it's all about collecting like terms. So we have a 6x cubed and a negative 5x cubed is positive 1x cubed. What's our next highest power? X squared, which is negative 2x squared. That's it. I don't see any other one. And then my x is, oh, okay, this comes out nicely. Negative 12x and a positive 12x just zeroes out. That's my final answer. 1x cubed minus 2x squared looks like the first one. Okay, this one is solving equation. So we're our manipulating expression. Okay, so let's do this one. So use inverse operation to solve the equation. X plus 9 equals 21. So this is like a one step, I believe. We have x plus 9 equals 21. So they say use the inverse. So basically the opposite. So if you look at the left, okay, so when you're solving one or two step equation, always check if you can collect like terms on the left side and the right side. Because it can get really a lot, like a lot of stuff on the left and right. But on the left, can you combine like terms? No, we have a variable and a constant, right? And then on the right, it's just 21. So what you want to do is solve for x, and all you got to do is get rid of this 9. And this is a positive 9, so you just do the opposite. What's the opposite? A positive subtraction or negative. So you're going to subtract 9 from both sides, and this 9 completely gone. I want it gone. I don't want a 1. I want it zeroed out, right? And then 21 minus 9 is 10, 11. That's 12, right? 10, wait, 10. 11. Yes, 12. Okay, so these are probably these are simple ones. They're just one step. Look at question two. We have y minus 6 equals 8. Oh, I know you don't have to do this, but because these are one step, but on the left side, can you combine like terms? No, variables and constant don't mix, and then on the right, it's just 8. So all we got to do is get rid of this negative 6 by adding 6 to both sides. Okay, so 8 plus 6 is 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. There you go, 14. Let's do question 3. We have 5m equals 35. You want to solve for m. So you got to, okay, this one's, yeah, so all I got to do is get rid of this 5. Now, a lot of people think you can get rid of this 5 by subtracting 5. That you cannot do that. You can't do that. Um, because you have this m here, so if you're going to subtract anything, you would have to subtract that m as well. But what happens if you subtract 5m from both sides? What happens is the 5m and the negative 5m cancels or zeros out. It doesn't become a 1, it becomes 0. And we have no more m's. And we need that m, right? Because they want you to solve for m, right? So that's why we can't subtract 5m. But if you look at this closely, this is like saying when it's really squish, it means multiplication, right? It's the same thing as 5 times m. So to get rid of this 5, you do the opposite of multiplication, dividing. So divide both sides by 5. Okay, so this 5's cancel. It actually doesn't become a 0. What's 5 divided by 5? It actually becomes 1, and then you still have this m, which is the same thing as m, right? 1m is the same thing as m. So that comes out really nicely. And then 35 divided by 5 is 7. Okay. Okay. So this one, k over 4 equals 6. There's two options you can do. You can get rid of the fraction by multiplying both sides by the LCD, which is 4, right? You can multiply both sides by 4. And then on the right side, 6 times 4 is 24. And then what's 4 times k over 4? The 4's cancel, so you're left with k. Okay, the other option is you can, because there's only two sides, you have a left and a right, you can just cross multiply, right? So this is an invisible one, so cross multiply. What's 1 times k? K. And then what's 6 times 4? 24. There you go. There's your answer. Okay, let's do this one. So use the inverse operation. Okay, so this is technically a two-step equation. So we have 3x plus 4 equals 19, and our goal is to solve for x. So here's the left side, here's the right side, right? So I'm going to do, first I'm going to check if we, on the left or right side, can we combine like terms? On the left side, we have 3x plus 4. Can we combine like terms? No, because we have a variable and a constant. They don't mix. And then on the right, you're just left with the constant. So what do I have to do first to get solve for x? So first I would do is get rid of this 4 right here. How do I do so? Is do the opposite. So this is addition. So what's the opposite of addition? Subtraction. So you're going to subtract 4 from both sides. So you have that cancels. So you're left with 3x. And then 19 minus 4 is 1, 2, 3, 4. I believe that's 15. Okay. The next step is solve for x. So I have to get rid of this 3. Do not subtract 3 or 3x. They'll not work. This is squished, and squished means multiplication. So what is the opposite of multiplication? Division. So you're going to divide both sides by 3, divide both sides by 3. So this cancels, and you're left with x equals 15 divided by 3 is 5. Okay, that's your final answer. Okay, let's move on. How much questions are there? Oh, there's 8. Okay. Okay, so 6, gotta solve for x. We have 2x minus 5 equals 11. So here's the left side, here's the right. So first, check if you can combine like terms on the left and on the right. Left, you have 2x minus 5. Is a constant and variable? No. Right, it's just a constant. So what would I do first? Get rid of this negative 5. How so? By adding 5, because what's the opposite of subtraction? Addition. So you get 2x equals 11 plus 5 is 16. And then to solve for x, you're going to get rid of this 2. And to do so, I'm going to divide both sides by 2. And then 16 divided by 2 is 8. So that's my final answer. Okay, question 7, we have negative 4x plus 2 equals 18. So on the left side, there's no way we can combine like terms. On the right, it's just 18. So let's start solving for x. So on the left, I would probably get rid of this 2 by subtracting 2 from both sides. So you get negative 4x equals 18 minus 2 is 17, 16. And then you solve for x, so you're going to get rid of this negative 4 by dividing both sides by negative 4. And then 16 divided by negative 4 is negative 4. Okay. Okay, question 8. Oh, this one's a good one. We have x over 3 minus 7 equals to 2. So here's the left side and here's the right. Can we combine like terms on the left side? No. So what would I do? There's two, well, you could do two things. You can get rid of the negative 7 first by adding 7 to both sides, or you can get rid of the fraction immediately by multiplying all three sides by the LCD. It's up to you. So if you want to get rid of the negative 7 first by adding 7 to both sides, that's perfectly fine. You get x over 3 equals to 2 plus 7 is 8, 9. Okay. Then what you would do is cross multiply because you only have a left side and a right, so you can do that, right? You can cross multiply only if you have two sides. So what's 1 times x? X. And then what's 3 times 9? 27. So it's that one. Okay, let's move on to the next test. Manipulating expression, clearing fractions. So this is a good one. I remember when I was doing one of the practice mode exam, uh, we were dealing with fractions and yeah. So this one, okay, so question 1, solve by clearing the fractions. So they want the fraction to be gone immediately. So let's do that. So we have x over 5 plus 2 equals 4. So what you want to do is to get rid of the fraction, you're going to have to multiply all sides by the LCD. What was commented on. So what is our LCD? That's what we need to find next. So if you look at the bottom, we have a 1, we have a 4, and we have a 5. So what would be my LCD? It would be 5. Because um, what you want to do is look at the bottom, make sure it's in the most primest form, and then look at the base. We're lucky that the bottom is already in the most primest form. We have a base of 5, which it is prime. You can't break it down. We have a base of 1. We have a base of 1. So what you want to do is, if you have a repeating base, we do have a repeating base of 1. So if you have a repeating base, pick the one with the highest power. Since they're both to the power of 1, it's just going to be 1 to the 1. And then you have a base of 5. That's not repeating, so bring that down. Put it all together. 1 times 5 is 5. Some people could see automatically that the LCD is 5. Some people have to do a little bit of algebra, but if you forgot how to find the LCD, there is a video. Just go down on supplementary videos and look under LCD. Okay, so I'm going to multiply everything by 5, all three sides. So yeah, what's 5 times x? 5? Well, the 5 and then the 5 are the same, so you're just left with x. What's 5 times 2? 10. And then what's 5 times 4? 20. Okay, so as you can see, the fraction says gone. That's what we want. And you go ahead and solve for x. So I'm going to subtract 10 from both sides. And you get 20 minus 10 is 10. Okay, that's simple. Actually, it's not simple because it's kind of hard to find the LCD if you're not sure. If finding the LCD is brand new, that can be difficult. Okay, let's move on to question 2. So yeah, there's three sides. We have the left, this side, the middle, and the third side. So what we have to do is get rid of the fraction. We have x over 2 minus x over 5 equals 3 or 3 over 1. So how do we find the LCD? You look at the number in the bottom. We have a 2, we have a 5, we have a 1. And the good news is they're all in the primest form. It cannot be broken down. So, and they're all different bases. We have a base of 2, we have a base of 5, and a base of 1. Nothing is repeating. So if you have different bases and in the most primest form, just put it all together. 2 times 5 times 1 is 10. So that's why our LCD is 10. Okay, so I'm going to multiply everything by 10, and let's see what we get. So what's 10 times x over 2? Well, I know that 10 divided by 2 is 5, and then you have an x. What's 10 times, careful, there's a minus in the middle. What's 10 times x over 5? Well, I know that 10 divided by 5 is 2, and then you have an x, so that's 2x. And then what's 10 times 3? 30. Okay, now let's continue solving for x. So here we have the left side, and then here we have the right. So on the left side, um, before we move things around, always check if we can combine like terms. So can we? Can we combine 5x and negative 2x? Yes, we can. What's 5x minus 2x? It's 3x equals 30. And then the last step is to get rid of this 3. Do not subtract 3. This is multiplication. Since this is multiplication, do the opposite of multiplication, dividing. Okay, so this cancels, and then you're left with 30 over 3, which is 10. That's my final answer. Okay, number 3, solve by clearing the fraction. We have x over 2, x plus 2 over 3 equals x minus 1 over 3 plus 1. So first we got to find the LCD. So if you look at the bottom, we have a 2, we have a 3, and then this 1 has an invisible 1. Check if it's in the most primest form. We have a 2, we have a 3, and a 1. They're all in the primest form. So all you got to do, and they're different bases, right? 2, 3, and 1 are all, so 2 and 3 and 1 are in the most primest form, and they're different bases. So this is the base of 2, this is the base of 3, this is the base of 1. So when they're all in at different bases and they're non-repeating, just bring it all down. So 2 times 3 times 1, just 6. So that is my LCD. So I'm going to multiply everything by 6. Okay, so let's start here. What's 6 times x plus 2 over 2? Well, I know that 6 divided by 2 is 3, and then you're left with x plus 2 equals. And then what's this one? What's 6 times x minus 1 over 3? Well, I know that 6 divided by 3 is 2, and then you have an x minus 1. And then lastly, what's 6 times 1 plus 6? Okay, let's continue the left side. So now we got to do is FOIL out. So on the left, what's 3 times x? That's 3x. And then what's 3 times 2? 6. And then on the right, what's 2 times x? 2x. And then what's 2 times negative 1? Negative 2 plus 6. Okay, so you have 3x plus 6. And then on the right, we have 2x. So oh wait, on the left side, we can't combine like terms, so that's why I just rewrote it. And then on the right side, can you combine anything? Yes, you can combine the constant negative 2 and 6, which is 4. That's it. Okay, so we combine like terms. Now what we have to do is check if we can now what we have to do is get all the variables on one side and all the constant on one side. It doesn't matter what you do first. So if I'm going to get all the x's on one side, so all I'm going to do is subtract 2x from both sides. Okay, so 3x minus 2x is 1x plus 6 equals 4. Okay, the next step is I'm going to get the constant on one side. So I'm going to move this positive 6 to the right. How I'm going to do that is I'm going to subtract 6, right? Because this is addition, the opposite of addition is subtraction. So that 6 goes away, so you're left with x. And then on the right, what's 4 minus 6? Negative 2. Okay, that is my final answer. Question 4, simplify the expression. I Here, let me rewrite it. It's a little bit too small. We have 20a times x squared minus 3x all over 4ax. We're gonna somehow simplify this. How are we gonna do this? Um, do not FOIL the 20a. Do not FOIL the 20a out. Instead, simplify the 20a and the 40ax. So I know that 20 divided by 4 comes out positive 5, and I also know that the a's cancels. So you have a 5 on the top, but this x does not go away. It does not cancel, so still put that on the bottom. And then on the top, you're still left with this x squared minus 3x. Okay. Now what I would do is FOIL out this 5. So 5 times x squared is 5x squared. 5 times negative 3x is negative 15x. And then it's all over x. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is divide everything by x. Or what you could do on the numerator is you can actually factor out a GCF, greatest common factor. And it looks like you could factor out a 5 and an x, right? Right? Yes, you can. On the numerator, you can factor out a 5x. So now this becomes a 3x, right? And then this would be a negative 3. And then it's all over x. And the x cancels. So you're left with 5 times 3x minus 3. And then you don't see your answer because they probably want us FOILed out. So 5 times 3x is 15x. And then 5 times negative 3 is negative 15. So it's 15x minus 15, which is that one. Oops. Hey, I don't see my answer because why don't I see my answer? Did I? Hold on, I must have done. Let me redo this one. I must have made a mistake somewhere. Okay, so on the top we have 20a parentheses x squared minus 3x all over 4ax. So yeah, what would I do? What would I do? I would simplify the 28a and the 40ax. So I know this a is canceled because they're the same, and I also know that 20 divided by 4 is 5, right? 20 divided by 4 is 5, and then you have an x on the bottom. Does that go away? And then you have an x squared minus 3x, and then go ahead and FOIL that 5, so that's going to be 5x squared minus 15x all over x. And then what I could do is, let's do this one. Let's divide each term by x. So we have 5x squared over x minus 15x over x. So 5x squared over x is uh, just 5x. And then over here, negative 15x over x, the x cancels, you're left with negative 15. So you have 5x minus 15. There we go. Okay, so we did that one. Minute. Let's see, wait, let me go back. I want to know if we're done with this section. Oh, oh no, we're not. So we have a few more sections until we're done for this part. What? Okay, so we have to do inverse operation. Let's do this one. Okay, so solve for x. Okay, so yeah, so what is, okay, so we have x cubed equals 27. I want to solve for x. Basically, I need to get rid of this power of 3. So what you could do is, to get rid of this power of 3 is you're going to raise both sides by the reciprocal of 3. So that's how I get rid of this power of 3. I'm going to raise both sides by the reciprocal of 3. So what is the reciprocal of 3 or 3 over 1? Reciprocal of that is 1/3. So I'm going to raise both sides by 1/3, 1/3. On the left side, what is x through x cubed? So it's really saying x cubed raised to the 1/3. So if you recall your exponent rules, when you raise the exponent, you multiply. So what's 3 times 1/3? It cancels or just becomes 1. So you're just left with x1 or just x, right? And then on the right side, it's 27 raised to the 1/3. Um, 27 to the 1/3 is also the same thing as the cube root of 27, right? So what this means is there a number that multiplies itself 3 times gives you 27? Yes. And I think you can also use a negative value. I think you can use +3 because 3 times 3 is 27. Wait, can we use -3? Let's see. -3 times -3 times -3. That is +9 times no, we cannot do that. So I think their only option is +3. Question 2, solve for y. We have the square root of y equals 5. Um, so if you want, you can square both sides, that'll get rid of the radical. Or you could think of a square root of y as the one, same thing as y to the 1/2. And then to get rid of this power 1/2, you can square both sides, right? So that's why we're squaring both sides. So on the left, what's 2 raised to the 1/2? I mean, 1/2 raised to the 2, it just becomes 1. So you're just left with y. And then what's 5 square? It's 25. Let's move on to question 3. We have a squared equals 49. Um, what I could do is I could take the square root of both sides or raise it to the 1/2. Um, so either way works. So on the right, what is the square root of 49? Do not say 7. It's actually two values, +7 and -7. Why? Because yes, why is that going to be +7, -7? Because when you take the square root, you always get a positive and a negative. So that is why it's going to be this one. Okay, solve for x. So we have 3x squared minus 5 equals 43. Okay, so what we're going to do is check. So on the left side, check if we can combine like terms, same with right. So on the left side, we have 3x squared minus 5. Can we combine like terms? No. We have a variable and a constant. There's no way. So what I would do next is add 5 to both sides. So we have 3x squared equals to 43 plus 5 is 5, 6, 7, 8. And then you solve for x. So you're going to get rid of this 3 by dividing both sides by 3. And so you get x squared equals to 48 divided by 3, which is 48 divided by 3 is 40, 16. Okay. Then what you want to do is solve for x by taking the square root of both sides. And then the square root of 16 is +4 and -4. Because remember, when you take the square root, you get two roots. Okay. Okay, let's move on to question 5. So we have m cubed over 2 plus 4 equals 8. If you wanted me to write it, that's fine. So what I would do is get rid of the fraction by multiplying all three sides by the LCD. That's the first step. So look at your bottom. We have a 2, we have a 1, and a 1. The good news is they're in the most primest form. It cannot be broken down any further. So what you're going to do is we have a repeating base of 1, but they're all to the power 1, so it's really just 1 to the 1. And then you have a base of 2, bring that down. So what's 2 times 1? 2. So you're going to multiply everything by 2. So over here, what's 2 times m cubed over 2? This is a 2, not a 12. The 2's cancel, so you're left with m cubed plus, over here, what's 2 times 4? 8. Over here, what's 2 times 8? 16. Okay, so continue solving for m, so you're going to subtract 8. Subtract 8, you get m cubed equals to 16 minus 8 is 8. And then to get rid of this power 3, you're going to raise both sides by the reciprocal 3, which is 1/3. So over here, 3 raised to the 1/3, it's just m. And then this is going to be 8 to the 1/3, which is the same thing as the cube root of 8. And then what number times itself 3 times gives you 8? And I think that's only 2, because 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. I don't think -2 will work because I want a positive 8, right? So it's going to be only positive 2. Okay, question 6. Solve for x. We have x plus 1 squared equals to 25. Okay, so first step is I'm going to get rid of this power 2 by taking the square root of both sides. So you have x plus 1 equals, and then the square root of 25 is plus or minus 5. And I'm going to use a negative because that's how it is with square. You get a plus or minus root. And then I'm going to get rid of this 1 by subtracting 1. So be careful. You have two answers. You get a plus or minus 5 and minus 1. So what that really means is you're going to use positive 5 and then subtract 1. And then your other x value is going to be -5 and minus 1. So 5 minus 1 is 4. And then -5 minus 1 is -6. Okay, so I'm going to use 4, -6. Okay, question 7. Solve for x. We have 2 square root of x minus 3 equals to 7. So first thing I'm going to do is add 3 to both sides. So you have 2 square root of x, and then 7 plus 3 is 8, 9, 10. Then I'm going to get rid of this 2 by dividing both sides by 2. So you get square root of x equals 10 divided by 2 is 5. Then I'm going to get rid of the square root of 2 by by squaring both sides, right? Because square root of x is the same thing as x to the 1/2, right? So to get rid of this 1/2, I'm going to square both sides. So this is x equals 5 squared is 25. Okay, here we go. Okay, question 8. Okay, so we have parentheses y minus 2 squared over 3 equals 12. Okay, what would I do first? Let's get rid of this 3. To get rid of this 3, you can or get rid of the fraction, you can multiply both sides by the LCD. If you look at the bottom, we have a 3 and a 1, so my LCD will be 3. So go ahead and multiply both sides by 3. So over here, the 3's cancels. So you're left with parentheses y minus 2 square. And then on the right, what's 12 times 3? 36. Okay. The next step is I'm going to get rid of the power 2 by taking the square root of both sides. So you have y minus 2 equals the square root of 36 is plus or minus 6. Okay, the last step is you're going to solve for y by adding 2 to both sides. So you get y equals, so be careful, you get two answers. So your first answer will be positive 6 plus 2, and then your other answer is negative 6 plus 2. Okay, so you get 6 plus 2 is 8, and then negative 6 plus 2 is negative 4. Okay, well, let's move on to the next. Solving equation with multiple variables. Okay, so let's begin. I think this might be the last one for this section. Okay, let's start with question 1. Solve the linear equation. We have negative 4x minus 3 equals negative 6x minus 11. So let's just do a few. I don't think, yeah, let's do a few because you already know. So we'll not do all 20. Um, so on the left side, we have negative 4x minus 3, which is your left. And then on the right, you have 6x minus 11 on the right. So remember when you're dealing with one or two step equation, I always first check. So check if you can combine like terms on both sides. So that's the first step I would always do when you're dealing with solving equations, whether it's a one step or two step or three step or even a four step. Always check if you can combine like terms. Step two, then what you want to do is get all the variables, meaning the letters, and on one side, the same thing with constant, get all the constant on one side. Okay. Then what you want to do is solve for your variable. So it's really just three simple steps. Okay, let's start with step 1. Can we combine like terms on the left and right side so we have a negative 4x and minus 3? No, this is a variable, this is a constant, no way. On the right side, we have we have a variable and a constant. Can we combine them? No. So let's move on to step 2. Get all the variables on one side. So get all the variables on one side and get all the constants on one side. It doesn't matter what you do first. But what if I want to get all the x's? So let's get all the x's on one side. So maybe I would add 6x to both sides. So this cancels. So you're left with negative 11 on the right. And then on the left, what's negative 4x plus 6x? 2x. And then I'm going to solve for x. So I'm going to add 3 to both sides. And then what's negative 11 plus 3? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Negative 8. And then you're going to solve for x by dividing both sides by 2. And you get x equals -4. Okay, so yeah, just if you need to write these rules down, go ahead. But those are just all the rules you really need to do. Okay, so now let's do question 2. We have 0.5x plus 6 equals 0.3x plus 18. So here's the left side and here's the right side. Can we combine like terms on the left? Nope. Variable and a constant. On the right, no. Variable and constant still mixed. So now what I'm going to do is get all the x's on one side. So I'm going to subtract 0.3x from both sides. So this cancels. So on the right, not right, left, what's 0.5x minus 0.3x? I think it's 0.3x. Wait, 0.5 minus 0.3, 2. No, it's 0.2x plus 6 equals 18. And then I'm going to subtract 6 from both sides, and I get 0.2x equals to 18 minus 6 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 12. And then divide this by 0.2. And then what's 12 divided by 0.2? So this is brand new without, you can't use a calculator. So how do I do this? How do I divide 12 divided by 0.2? So this is what you do. So you put 12 inside the box and then 0.2 outside. And then what you're going to do is you can't leave this as decimal, so you count how many total decimals you have. This is a total of 1 to the right. So you're going to move this invisible decimal 1 places to the right. So now your answer is going to be 0, 2. Okay, so 0 2 is the same thing as 2. And then what's this? So this would be 6. And bring down the 0. So that's 60. Correct. Question 3. Yeah, what I'm going to do is left side, right side. There's no way you can combine like terms. So let's get all the x's on one side. So I'm going to add 4x, add 4x. So 8x plus 4x is 9, 10, 11, 12x. Minus 17 equals 7. And then I'm going to solve for x. So I'm going to add 17 to both sides. We get 12x equals to 17 plus 7 is 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 24. Divide this by 12, divide this by 12, and you get 24 divided by 12 is 2. Okay, that's my answer. I'm going to stop here because a lot of these problems are redundant, and we did a lot of these problems, and I just don't want to do redundant work. Okay, so yeah, this is basically an IBEW practice solving linear equations regarding linear equations. So yeah, this is gonna definitely help with when you're taking the IBU exam for electricians. Okay, I'm gonna stop here.